My grandson asked me to look under the table at his father's wedding, and when I bent down to see what he was pointing out, my whole life collapsed in seconds. There, glued to the bottom of the main table, was a sealed envelope with my handwritten name. My hands trembled as I pulled the tape and opened that roll that would change everything forever. "Grandpa, there's something stuck down here," I had whispered Miguel, my 8-year-old grandson, pulling the bar of my black suit. "Dad said it wasn't for anyone to see, but it has its name." I was sitting alone at the last table of the salon, watching my son Samuel dance with his new wife, Carla, while 200 guests celebrated a marriage that cost me more than 50,000 reais, virtually all my economies in a life of work. No one had come to greet me. No one had asked how I was. I was just the groom's father, the 58-year-old man who raised Samuel alone after my Lucia died of cancer when the boy was only 12 years old. My name is José Carlos da Silva, and for 46 years, I worked as an animal to give everything my son needed. When Lucia died, I promised on her bedside that Samuel would never need. "Take good care of our boy, Joseph." It was her last words, whispered with that weak voice that still echoes in my head every night. Since then, I have done everything. He worked as a bricklayer from 6 in the morning until 4 in the afternoon, ran home, was late for Samuel, helped with homework, and then left to work as a watchman from 10 in the night until 5 in the morning. On weekends, I washed cars in the square to get extra money. My hands became so calling that they looked like stone. My back hurt so much that I could barely get out of bed, but never complained. Did Samuel want to study English? I paid. Did Samuel want brand tennis? I bought. Did Samuel want birthday party? I made a point of hiring the best buffet in town, even though I meant working 3 extra months to pay. When he finished high school and said he wanted to go to school in a private university, I didn't hesitate a second. "Dad, it's expensive," he had said, a little embarrassed. "My son, the money we get. The important thing is that you have a better future than mine," I said, and worked in 4 jobs during the 5 years of his college. He woke up at 5 in the morning and only returned home after midnight. There are days when I don't even remember how I got home so tired, but it was worth it when he graduated. I cried with pride when I saw Samuel de Beca, a diploma in my hand, smiling at the photos. He got a job in a large company as an administrative manager. It started to earn well, bought a car, rented an apartment. I thought, mission accomplished. My Lucia can rest in peace. But things started to change when Samuel met Carla. She was a beautiful, blonde, rich family woman, and from the first day she made it clear that I was not welcome in their lives. The first time Samuel took me to meet her 2 years ago, she looked at me up and down and asked, "So you are the bricklayer?" "Yes, my daughter," I answered with a smile. "How interesting," she said, but the tone made it clear that nothing was interesting. "Samuel told me that you don't have much study." Samuel said nothing to defend me. It just changed the subject, as if you were ashamed of me. The visits were getting rarer. Samuel always had an excuse. He was busy with work, had commitments to her family, or simply not answering the phone. When I appeared in his apartment without warning, Carla received me at the door with an ugly face. "Joseph, it's not a good time," she said, calling me by name like I'm any stranger, never Mr. Joseph or father. "Samuel is tired. How about you call before next time?" Next time it never arrived, because Samuel never answered my calls. The invitation to the wedding came by mail, formal, as if I were just another guest. There was no personal connection. A father, "I want you to be there with me on my special day." Just a gold roll with my name on the guest list. Even so, I was thrilled. My son was going to get married. I ran on the bench, took all my savings, and asked Samuel how I could help with costs. "Ah, Dad, I'm glad he asked," he said, and for the first time in months seemed excited to talk to me. "The truth is that the marriage is coming out very expensive. Carla wants a big party, beautiful church, all the best. If you could help with a 50,000 raise." It was all I had kept in 20 years of hard work. It was my retirement, my insurance, my reserve to emergencies. But it was my son's marriage. "You can leave with me, Samuel. I will arrange," I said without hesitation. I transferred the money the next day. Samuel didn't even thank me right. Just said, "Thanks, Dad. Now we can make the party that Carla dreamed." Throughout the ceremony, I felt like a ghost. Samuel barely looked at me when he entered the church of arms given with Carla. When the priest asked who delivers this engagement, it was her father who answered. When he asked who delivers this fiancé, there was silence. Samuel simply said, "I surrender for myself." That broke my heart. I had raised that boy alone, had been a father and mother, had sacrificed me for him every day for 46 years, and on the most important day of his life, I didn't even exist. At the time of the photos, the photographer shouted, "Now the groom's family." I got up from my chair to go to the altar, but Samuel raised his hand. "Only me and my wife, please," he said loudly, in front of all the guests. The important family is here. I felt 200 people looking at me with pity or mockery. I went back to my place slowly, with my legs, feeling the weight of every look spiked on my back. At the party, the humiliations continued. "Father, can you sit down there?" Carla had told me in the morning, pointing to a table away from the main stage. We organized the places in order of importance in the life of the bride and groom, and there is the place of common guests. Common guests. I, who had paid the whole marriage, was an ordinary guest. During dinner, something happened that I will never forget. All the waiters served the other tables but passed straight through mine. I stayed there sitting alone with an empty plate, watching everyone eat while my stomach snore. I called one of the waiters, a young boy in a white shirt. Excuse me, I think you forgot about my table." He looked at me with embarrassment and whispered, "Sorry, sir, but I received specific instructions from the bride not to serve this table. She said the Lord will not have dinner here." I felt my face warm with shame. "What do you mean I'm not going to have dinner? I'm the groom's father." "I know, sir, and I'm sorry, but it's the orders. I can't disobey, otherwise I lose my job." I looked at Samuel, who was laughing loudly on the main table, attacking a plate full of shrimp and salmon. I tried to get his attention, waved to him, but when our eyes met, he simply looked away and kept talking to friends as if I didn't exist. The humiliation hurt more than hunger. There I was, a 58-year-old man who had worked a lifetime to give everything to that son, being treated like a beggar in the wedding I paid myself. That's when Miguel approached my table. The boy was the son of Samuel's first wife, a marriage that lasted only 2 years. Samuel rarely let the boy visit me, always making excuses of crowded agenda or trips. But that day Miguel was there, dressed in a small blue suit, looking at me with those big, sad eyes that reminded me so much of Samuel Child. "Grandpa, why are you alone?" he asked, climbing the chair beside me. "Ah, my boy is that." I started to explain, but my voice failed. How to explain to a child that the child himself was humiliating me on the day of his marriage? How to tell me that I was being treated like a hindrance after a lifetime of sacrifice? Miguel looked around, saw my empty plate, and the movement of the waiters serving all the other tables, less ours. "Are you not hungry, Grandpa?" "Yes, my son, but—" "Wait there," said Miguel, and went down his chair. I saw the boy go to the main table and pull the bar of his father's suit. "Dad, Grandpa is without food," I heard. Samuel looked toward me. Our eyes met once more, and then he bent down to talk to his son. I couldn't hear what he said, but I saw Miguel back with his head down and his eyes full of tears. "What did your father said, my angel?" I asked when he returned close to me. Miguel looked around as if he feared being heard, and whispered with his embargoed voice, "Dad said you are no longer in the family. He said that now Carla is sending and that you will have to live away from them because you are disturbing his new life." I felt my chest squeeze as if someone had punched me. "He said that, my son?" Miguel waved his head, cleaning a tear that dripped his face. "He said you are from the past, Grandpa, and that his future is with Carla alone." The words of that innocent boy crossed me like a knife. 46 years of love, dedication, sacrifice reduced to past. I felt a mixture of pain, anger, and despair I had never felt before in life. When Miguel looked under the table where we were sitting and frowned. "There's something strange down here, Grandpa," he said, pointing. "It has its name written." I bent down, still shaking with emotion for what I had just heard, and saw the envelope glued with tape at the bottom of the table. My name was written to the pen, with the lyrics I knew very well, the lyrics of Samuel. My hands trembled as I pulled the tape and opened the envelope. Inside were several double papers. The first was a real estate document, dated 3 months ago. As I read, I felt the world turn around me. My house, the house where I created Samuel, where my Lucia died, where I kept all my memories of 40 years of life, had been sold. Samuel had forged my signature and sold my house for 200,000 rees. But what destroyed me was not that. He went to read at the bottom of the document, a hand-written ticket by Carla herself. "Samuel, my love, now that we can get the old man out of the play, we can finally live in peace. You have done the right thing selling his house. This money will get into our new apartment and better. He'll be without having nowhere to live, so he stops appearing in our life." My breath was heavy. My hands sweated cold. The noise of the surrounding party disappeared from my ears. 46 years of work, sacrifice, unconditional love, and my own son had stolen me. Not just money, but my house, my dignity, my place in the family, my future. I lifted my trembling eyes and saw Samuel watching me from the main table. He realized that I had found the envelope. Our looks crossed for a second that seemed eternal, and at that moment I saw something in the eyes of my son I had never seen before. Total coldness. There was no regret, there was no surprise, there was no sign of guilt. He just smiled in the corner, lifted the gold champagne cup, and gestured toward me, as if he was toasting my discovery, as if you were celebrating my destruction. Carla, who was beside him, followed her husband's eyes, saw me with the papers in his hand, and also smiled. She whispered something in Samuel's ear, and the two laughed softly, staring at me with that look of superiority and contempt. That's when I realized that there were more envelopes glued under that table, all with my fragrant lyrics written by hand. With his hands still shaking with shock and revolt, I pulled the second envelope that was glued under the table. Miguel watched me with those big, innocent eyes, not understanding the severity of what was happening. When I opened the second roll, I felt my stomach turns completely. It was a life insurance policy on my behalf, in the amount of 300,000 reais, with Samuel as the only beneficiary. The document was dated just a month ago, and in the insured signature field, there was a rude imitation of my lyrics. I had never hired any life insurance. I had never even heard of this company. "Grandpa, are you okay?" Miguel asked, seeing my face is pale. "You're sweating." "Yes, my angel," lied, cleaning the cold sweat that was dripping down my forehead. "It's just the warmth of the party." But my heart was fired. My house sold without my knowledge, fraudulent life insurance, and now, what else had they planned? With trembling fingers, I pulled the third envelope. This time it was a power of attorney that gave me the power to sign any document on the behalf of Samuel. Once again, my signature had been falsified, and on the back of the paper a hurry-mounted ticket with Carla's lyrics. "If the old man gets work, we use it to internal him into a psychiatric clinic. Dr. Marina is already warned. Just say he has senile dementia. Senile dementia. They wanted to hospitalize me like crazy." My mind started working frantically, connecting the points. The house sold would leave me homeless. Life insurance would make me a source of money. The falsified power of attorney would give them full control over my life. And if I resisted, they would make me go through mental ill. It was at this moment that the memories began to invade my head like a flood. In the last 6 months, Samuel had appeared several times in my house with strange excuses. "Father, I need the Lord to sign some papers here for me," he said, always in a hurry. "It's a thing of work. No big deal." I signed without reading, blindly relying on my son. How many times did it sign me blank leaves? How many times he said, "Is it just a formality, Father?" while I scribbled my name in documents that didn't even look well. I also remembered the strange questions Carla asked when they visited me. "Joseph, do you have any memory problem?" she asked with that smile, false in row. "Sometimes you repeat the same stories. Father, don't you think you're getting a little forgotten?" Samuel complimented. "The other day the Lord told me the same thing 3 times. They were planting the seed, preparing the terrain to mentally declare me incapable." I looked around the party and saw Samuel talking excitedly with an expensive man I didn't know. They laughed loudly and Samuel pointed discreetly toward me. The man looked at me, nodded as if confirming something, and the two continued the conversation. "Miguel," I whispered to my grandson, "who is that man speaking to his father?" The boy looked and answered innocently, "Ah, it's Dr. Roberto. He comes a lot at home. Dad said he will help when you get sick from your head." Sick of the head. My blood froze. It was then that I began to remember other details that at the time seemed normal, but now they gained a dark meaning. In Samuel's last visits to my house, he always made a point of moving my things. "Father, where do you keep the important documents?" he asked, scouring drawers. "Why do you want to know, my son?" "Oh, it's good for me, right? If something happens to you, I need to know where the scriptures are, certificates, these things." He knew exactly where my document was. I had full access to my home, my drawers, my rolls. Now I understood why he always insisted for me to leave a key with him, for emergencies. I also remembered the day he appeared with Carla at my house about 2 months ago, and they spent hours helping organizing my paperwork. "Father, what a mess. You need to organize it better," Carla had said, stirring everything. "Let me help put everything in order." They were alone in my house while I went to buy coffee at the bakery. When I came back, everything was organized, but I could never find some important documents again. At the time, I thought I had lost. Now I knew they had stolen. My hands trembled as I took the envelope room glued under the table. This time it was a bank account that I was completely unaware of, open in my name on a bank that never stepped on in life. The balance showed several suspicious movements. Large deposits followed by immediate transfer to Samuel and Carla's account. They were using my name to launder money. "Grandpa," Miguel whispered, pulling my sleeve. "There are people coming here." I looked up and saw Samuel approaching our table with an expression I had never seen on his face before. It was not anger. It was not nervous. It was a calculated coldness, as if he was approaching a problem that needed to be solved. Behind him came Carla, and the one Dr. Roberto, the man of expensive suit. "Father," Samuel said in a falsely affectionate voice, "are you feeling well?" Some people commented that the Lord was moving strange things under the table. "I'm fine, Samuel," I said, trying to hide the papers in my hands. "Are you sure?" Carla interfered with that poisonous smile. "Because moving under the table, talking alone, It's signs that it may be time to seek medical help. Dr. Roberto stepped forward and extended his hand. Mr. Jose, I'm Dr. Roberto Mendez, psychiatrist. Samuel told me a lot about the Lord. How about talking a little? Psychiatrist. They had brought a psychiatrist to the party. You don't need any conversation, I said, getting up from the chair. I'm perfectly well. Dad, you don't have to be nervous, Samuel said, but his tone had changed. Now there was a veiled threat in the words. Dr. Roberto just wants to help. He specializes in people his age who are going through difficulties. What difficulties? What is this story? Well, Dr. Roberto pulled a chair and sat next to me without being invited. Samuel told me that the man has been very confusing lately, forgetting things, repeating stories, signing papers without knowing what they are. My blood boiled. They were setting me a trap right there in the middle of the party. I don't sign anything without knowing what it is, I answered firmly. Are you sure, Dad? Samuel opened a cynical smile. Because I have here several signatures in documents that you don't even remember signed. He pulled a folder he was carrying and spread papers on the table in front of everyone. They were dozens of documents with my signature, some true, some clearly falsified, but all mixed on purpose to create confusion. Look, Mr. Jose, Dr. Roberto said aloud enough for others to hear. Do you remember to sign a power of attorney giving full powers to your child? And this transfer of goods? And this document authorizing the sale of your home? People from the Vichy table's NAS began to look toward us. Whispers spread throughout the hall. The old man is feeling sick. It's kind of confused, poor man, age has come. I never authorized any house sales, I shouted, but my voice came out desperate, just like the voice of a mentally confused man. Dad, calm, Samuel said with false concern, putting his hand on my shoulder. The Lord is extolling. Dr. Roberto, are you seeing what I said? These episodes of aggression are increasingly frequent. Episodes of aggressiveness? I was incredulous. Samuel, what a lie is this? Mr. Jose, Dr. Roberto said in a professional tone. It is very common people at their age to have difficulty accepting that they need help, but by analyzing the documents Samuel showed me, and for their behavior here now, I would recommend a more detailed assessment. Miguel, who had been quiet all this time, suddenly pulled my shirt and whispered in my ear, Grandpa, there's one more thing under the table, right in the back. It looks different from the others. With my heart fired, I lowered myself once again, pretending to tie my shoe. In the most hidden corner of the table, I found a small envelope, different from the others. When I opened it, I almost shouted with shock. It was a picture of me sleeping in my own bed, taken through my bedroom window, and on the back, a 2-week date and a ticket with Carla's lyrics, "When the time has come, it will be easy. It sleeps heavy, and the window is always open." They were planning my death. The picture of me sleeping in my own bed, taken by someone who was peering through the window, made me so afraid that I felt my heart almost stop. But at that moment, in the middle of the wedding party, with Samuel, Carla, and Dr. Roberto surrounding me like vultures, I needed to pretend I had seen nothing. My life depended on it. Do you know what it is, Dr. Roberto? I said, forcing a smile and discreetly keeping the papers in the inner pocket of the jacket. I think the Lord is right. I really walk a little confusing. It must be the age coming. Samuel and Carla exchanged a look of surprise. They clearly didn't expect me to agree so easily. Father, good that the Lord is recognizing, Samuel said, but I realized a dangerous relief in his voice. Dr. Roberto can make some appointments for you. It will help a lot. Of course, I said, still smiling falsely. But today is a party day, right? Let's leave these serious conversations for later. Miguel, how about we get a soda for you? I took my grandson by the hand and pulled away from that group of snakes before they realized I was shaking with fear and anger. I needed to leave, think, plan my next move. They wanted to kill me, but now I knew that. The advantage had changed sideways. I walked with Miguel to the bar, my mind working frantically. How many other people were involved in this conspiracy? Dr. Roberto was clearly part of the plan. Who else? And most importantly, when did they intend to execute the plan? Miguel, I whispered to my grandson as we pretended to choose soft drinks. Do you remember seeing someone different at your father's house lately? People you didn't know? The boy thought for a moment and nodded. Yes, Grandpa. There was a bald man who appeared at home about 3 times. Dad always sent me to the room when he arrived, but I heard them talking about you. What did they say about me? I didn't understand everything, but the bald man asked if his house was away from the main street, and asked if you were taking medicine to sleep. My blood froze. They were studying my routine, my house, my habits. The plan was advanced. Miguel, this bald man was here at the party today? The boy looked around the hall and discreetly pointed to a table in the corner. There, Grandpa. He's sitting with that green dress woman. I looked in the direction that Miguel indicated and saw a man of a 40-year-old man, bald, dressed in a dark suit, talking softly with a blonde woman. When our eyes met by chance, He quickly looked away, too suspicious. It was at this moment that I made a decision that would change everything. I was going to investigate this conspiracy to the end, but first I needed to get out alive from that party. Miguel, Grandpa needs to leave now, but it's secret, okay? Don't tell your father that I left. Why, Grandpa? The party isn't even over yet. It's just that Grandpa is not feeling very well. I lied. But tomorrow I call you, I promise. I kissed my grandson's forehead and walked toward the exit, trying to look casual. But when I was almost at the door, I heard Samuel calling me. Father, where are you going? I turned and saw him coming towards me with worried face. Not worrying about an affectionate son, but concern for those who see a plan being the Miata. I'm going home, Samuel. I'm tired. But Father, how about you sleep in our house today? Carla made a point of preparing the guest room for the Lord. Sleep in their house? After finding out they were planning my death? Not even dead. No thanks, my son. I prefer my own bed. But Father, Samuel insisted, and now his voice had an almost desperate tone. The Lord seems very confused today. Dr. Roberto said it would be better for the Lord not being alone. What if the Lord was injured at home? I have been well alone for 46 years, Samuel. Father, I insist you go to sleep at home today. His insistence confirmed me that there was urgency in their plan. Maybe it was the same night. Maybe they were in a hurry for some reason I didn't know yet. Samuel, I go to my house, I repeated firmly. That's when Carla appeared by my side as if she had arisen out of nowhere. Joseph, you should really accept our offer. Your house is so isolated. Anything can happen to a man of your age living alone. The way she said anything can happen made me feel a shiver on my pimple. It was a veiled threat. Thanks for the concern, Carla, but I'm going home. I managed to get out of the party, but I felt glances following me to the parking lot. When I got into my old car, a 15-year-old Uno, my hands trembled so much that I could barely put the key in the ignition. Throughout the way home, I stared at the rearview mirror to see if it was being followed. The dark streets of the periphery never seemed so threatening. Every shadow, every car that appeared behind me made me sweat cold. My house was on a dead-end street in an area away from the city center. It was a simple 3-bedroom house that I bought with a lot of sweat after years paying rent. The terrain was large, with a backyard full of fruit trees that my Lucia loved. Now I realized that the isolation that I always considered a blessing could be my perdition. I parked the car and I sat there for a few minutes watching the house. Everything seemed normal, but I knew that normality could be misleading. I grabbed a lantern from the glove compartment and began to examine around the house. And that's when I found the first physical evidence of surveillance. In the backyard under the window of my room, there were footprints on the wet earth, fresh footprints, which were not mine. Someone had been there recently spying on. I approached the flashlight to the window and saw scratches in the railing as if someone had forced the wood to peer better. My heart fired. They really had been there, watching my habits, studying my sleep routine. I entered home carefully, turning on all the lights and checking each room. In the kitchen, I noticed that the drawer where I kept the knives was ajar. I always closed all the drawers well. Someone had moved there. I went to my room and examined the window inside. The lock was loose as if it had been forced and then badly closed. They had invaded my house. With tremendous hands, I took my old cell phone and called the only friend I was left in the world, Sue John, my 70-year-old neighbor who lived 3 houses down. John, sorry to call this time, but did you see someone different on the street today? Hi, Joseph. I saw a boy. He spent a dark car here several times today. He stood in front of his house about 2 hours. I thought it was your visit. What kind of car? A black Corolla, tinned glass. There was 2 men inside. I found it strange, but I didn't want to put 2 men watching me. The plan was being executed. John, do I need to ask you a very important favor? Can you come here at home? It's urgent. 15 minutes later, his John arrived from slippers and t-shirt, worried about my tone of voice. I showed him all the rolls I found at the party, told about the conspiracy, about fraudulent life insurance, the illegal sale of the house. My God from heaven, Joseph, he exclaimed, examining the documents. This is very serious. Your own son wants to kill you. I need more concrete proofs, John. I need to record them talking or get more documents. Alone, I have no chance. What do you want me to do? It helps me install security cameras here at home, tomorrow morning before they come back. And you can keep an eye on the street, see if it appears strange car again. We spent the whole night planning. His John had a friend who worked with electronic security and could install small, discrete cameras. We also decided that I needed to get more evidence from the conspiracy. The next day, very early, while the cameras were installed, I received a call from Samuel. Father, good morning. How did you sleep? The question sounded strange. It was as if he was surprised that I had slept well. I slept well, Samuel. Good, Father. Look, and you and Carla, we want to talk to you this afternoon. It is important. Can we pass there? They would come to my house. It was the perfect opportunity to get evidence. Of course, my son. What time? About 3 in the afternoon, can it be? Maybe yes. I hung up the phone and looked at his John. They come here today at 3. Let's take these mothers' children talking about their plan. At 3 o'clock in point, Samuel arrived accompanied by Carla and, to my surprise, from Dr. Roberto. It was not a family visit. It was an operation. Father, we brought Dr. Roberto to have a more serious conversation with the Lord, Samuel said as soon as they entered the room. Conversation about what? About the future of the Lord, Carla answered with that fake smile. About the care that a man of his age needs. Dr. Roberto opened a folder and spread papers on the table of my living room. Mr. Jose, here we have some documents for you to sign. These are forms for a complete psychiatric evaluation. We also have authorization for temporary hospitalization if necessary. Temporary hospitalization. They wanted to join me. What if I don't want to sign? Father, Samuel said in a voice that I had never heard before, cold, threatening. The Lord has no choice. Dr. Roberto can declare the Lord mentally incapable based on yesterday's behavior at the party. The Lord talking alone, stirring things that did not exist under the table. Stirring things that didn't exist? I repeated. Exactly, Carla smiled. Because there was nothing under that table, Joseph, you had hallucinations. They were denying the existence of the envelopes. They wanted to make me go crazy. What if I refused to sign anything? Dr. Roberto leaned forward with a cruel smile. So let's have to use other methods, Mr. Jose. More direct methods. That's when I heard the sound of a car stopping in front of the house. Through the window, I saw the black Corolla that your John had described me. 2 large men got out of the car and walked toward my door. They had brought henchmen. The news that arrived on Friday morning made me completely shocked. Sergeant Mello knocked on my door at 7 in the morning with a serious expression on his face. Joseph, I need to talk to you about an important discovery, he said, entering my room. We found more evidence during Dr. Roberto's investigation. He opened a folder full of documents and photos. His son and Carla were not his only targets. Dr. Roberto commanded a stock network that has stolen more than 2 million rees of seniors in the last 3 years. And the worst, we found evidence that at least 4 people have died. I felt my stomach turn. They died like overdose of psychiatric drugs. They were all elderly who had discovered the scheme and threatened to denounce. Dr. Roberto internalized and then, well, accidents happened. Sergeant Mello showed me pictures of 4 people, a 70-year-old man, a lady of 65, a man of my age, and a 58-year-old woman. Everyone had the same look I saw in the mirror, the look of those who worked all my life and trusted the wrong people. Joseph, if you had not discovered the plan when you discovered, would probably be the 5th victim. Reality has hit me like a punch in the stomach. I had been a few days to be murdered. And Samuel? I asked with a choked voice. Did he know that other people had died? Sergeant Mello waved his head seriously. We found messages on his cell phone, Joseph. Samuel knew, yes, and not only knew how he was anxious to happen to the Lord as well. There is a message from him to Carla saying, I hope it is fast as with the other old. And there is worse. We found a WhatsApp group called Cleaning Operation, where they shared photos of the victims and celebrated each success. I felt tears of anger and sadness run down my face. My own son not only wanted to kill me for money, but he celebrated the death of other parents, other grandparents, other people who had dedicated their lives to raising ungrateful children. But I have good news, Sergeant Mello continued. Because of the evidence that you have achieved and the severity of the crimes, Samuel, Carla, and Dr. Roberto will catch very heavy feathers. Samuel can be between 15 and 20 years in prison. Carla, between 12 and 15. Dr. Roberto will take life imprisonment, 20 years. Samuel would lose the best years of his life in a jail. And there is more, Sergeant Mello said. The prosecution will criminally prosecute all the assets that were bought with money stolen. The apartment that Samuel and Carla bought with the money from the sale of their home will be auctioned. All the money will be returned to the families of the victims. In addition, the insurer will pay an indemnity of 100,000 reais for the moral damages and Pesci attempted fraud. 100,000 reais. It was more money than I had seen together. And Joseph, Sergeant Mello has smiled for the first time since he arrived. The prosecutor has decided that he will use his case as a national example. They want to make an educational campaign to alert other elderly about this type of coup. Do you have to give interviews? During the following weeks, my history gained national repercussion. I appeared in 3 television programs, 2 radio interviews, and my photo came out in newspapers from various states. With each interview, dozens of people called me telling similar stories, children who stole, daughters-in-law, families who abandoned the elderly. But I also received hundreds of support messages. Manuscript letters arrived by the post office every day. You're Joseph, you are a hero, wrote Dona Rosa de Minas Gerais. You're Joseph, the Lord gave me strength to denounce my son, in law, said a letter from Rio Grande do Sul. The most exciting arrived from Sao Paulo, written by an 80-year-old lady. Dear Mr. Jose, my grandson tried to apply me the same blow after seeing his story on television, but thanks to his example, I was already prepared. I recorded him confessing everything, and today he is stuck. The Lord saved my life without even knowing me. 3 weeks later, during the trial, I had to witness against Samuel. He was sitting at the defendant's table, with an orange uniform of prison, handcuffs on his wrists. When our eyes met, he didn't look away. There was no longer the son I raised there. There was only one criminal who happened to carry my last name. Mr. Jose Carlos, said the prosecutor, can you tell the court what did you find out on wedding day? I told the whole story, from humiliation at the party to the discovery of the envelopes under the table. When I mentioned how Miguel saved my life, several people in court were thrilled. I saw women wiping tears and men shaking their heads in indignation. And what did you feel when you found that your own son was planning to kill him? Asked the prosecutor. I looked straight at Samuel before answering. I felt that I had failed as a father, that somewhere on the way I could not teach him the value of the family, respect, gratitude. But then I understood that I did everything a father can do. I worked 3 jobs to give him everything. I paid private school, college, marriage. I never missed anything. The rest was his choice. Samuel lowered his head for the first time throughout the trial. The defense lawyer tried to claim that Samuel was under the influence of Carla and Dr. Roberto, that he was just a manipulated victim. But when the prosecutor showed his cell phone messages celebrating the death of other seniors and read aloud a conversation where Samuel said, "I can't wait to get rid of the old man," it was clear that he was a voluntary and enthusiastic partner of the crime. Do you have anything to say in your defense? Asked the judge to Samuel. Samuel got up, looked at me for a few seconds, and said in a voice that I barely recognized, "Most merit, I have no defense. I did everything that are accusing me and more. I just want to say that my father did not deserve it. He was the best father in the world and I was the worst son." It was the first time Samuel publicly admitted his guilt. Mr. Samuel da Silva, said the judge during the sentence, the Lord betrayed as cowardly as possible the man who dedicated his entire life to give him everything. Not only did he plan to murder him, but he did it by pure greed, knowing that other families had already been destroyed by the same scheme. In addition, evidence shows that the Lord celebrated the death of innocent elderly as if it were a sport. 18 years in prison, in closed regime. 18 years. Samuel would be 72 when he left jail. Carla received 14 years. She shouted and cursed when she heard the sentence, blaming me, Samuel, everyone but herself. Dr. Roberto received life imprisonment. When he came out handcuffed, he looked at me with hatred and whispered, "You destroyed a millions, old idiot business." "No," I answered loud enough for everyone to hear. "I saved hundreds of lives." When the trial ended, Samuel was handcuffed again to return to prison. He stopped in front of me and whispered, "Father, the Lord destroyed my life." "No, Samuel," I said sadly in my heart. "You destroyed your own life, and almost destroyed mine too." It was the last words we exchanged in person. 2 months after the trial, Miguel returned to visit me regularly. Your mother, Anna, became a great friend. She told me that Samuel was never a good father, who was always selfish and manipulative, but she thought he would change over time. "I'm sorry for everything he has done with the Lord, his Joseph," she said on a mingo while Miguel played in the backyard. "If I knew what he was capable of." "Don't blame yourself, Anna. Samuel deceived everyone, even me, who created him." Miguel, who had heard the conversation, approached and gave me a hug. "Grandpa, you won't be alone. I will always come here to visit you, and when I grow up, I will take care of you like you took care of Dad." Those words of an 8-year-old touched me more than any court sentence. Anna started bringing Miguel every weekend. They had lunch with me on Sunday, and Miguel slept in the room I settled especially for him. We helped each other. I gave Anna advice to Anna, who was rebuilding life as a single mother, and she helped me with the most difficult household chores. "You're Joseph," Anna told me one day. "Have you ever thought that maybe God has allowed it all to happen to come together?" Miguel always wanted a present grandfather, and I always wanted to have a father around. She was right. The tragedy that almost destroyed me ended up giving me a true family. 6 months later, I used part of the indemnity money I received to reform my home. I built an extra room especially for Miguel, with bunk beds when he wanted to bring friends. I renovated the kitchen, the bathroom, painted it all over again. I planted new fruit trees in the backyard, the same ones that my Lucia loved. Your John became my best friend. We were going to fish together on Sundays. We played dominoes on Saturday afternoons. We watched football games, drinking a cold beer. He also started attending Sunday lunches with Anna and Miguel. "Joseph," he told me on one of these Sundays, "don't you think about getting married again? A man of his age, hard-working, honest, now even famous. There's a lot of good women out there." "John, after everything I went through, I think I really prefer this simple life. My house, my grandson, my friends, that's all I need. And it was true. For the first time in years, I was at peace. The whole community changed with me after the repercussion of the case. In the bakery, Donna Maria always kept me the cooler bread. In the supermarket, the manager made a point of serving me in person. In the church, the pastor invited me to testify about forgiveness and reconstruction. Brother Joseph, he said during the service, can you share with us how did you find the strength to forgive and move on? Pastor, I answered to the crowded congregation, I learned that keeping anger is like taking poison, hoping that the other die. I forgave Samuel not for him but for me, in order to live in peace. After the service, dozens of people came to hug me and tell their own stories of forgiveness and overcoming. A year after the trial, I received a letter in prison. It was from Samuel. Dad, I write this letter after a long time thinking. I know I don't have the right to ask for forgiveness after everything I did. I know you should hate me, and I understand. Here in jail, living with real criminals, I realized the monster I became, possible worse. I don't expect you to forgive me. I just want you to know that I regret it every day. You were the best father that any child could have, and I was the worst child that any father could have. Reading that letter made me cry for the first time since the trial, not of anger, but of pure sadness. Samuel had finally understood what he did, but it was too late for our relationship. I kept the letter in a drawer and took 2 months to decide whether to respond or not. In the end, I wrote just a few lines. Samuel, I'm glad you're trying to become a better person. Keep studying and helping others. When I get out of prison, I hope you are a different man than you entered, not for me but to yourself, Jose Carlos. It was our only correspondence exchange. 2 years after the trial, life had taken a course that I would never imagine. Miguel, now 10, was growing up like an intelligent and affectionate boy. I took better school grades and always told me about her plans to be an engineer when she grows up. Grandpa, he told me one afternoon while we did our homework together, I want to build beautiful houses for poor people just like you did. What a beautiful idea, my grandson. But why did you choose this? Because you taught me that working with your hands is honored. And because I want to help people who need it just like you always did. Anna got a promotion at work and bought her own home 2 blocks from mine. We kept seeing almost all DIS. She introduced me to some friends of her, and gradually I was building a social circle I never had before. Sue John and I set up a small group of senior fishermen. Every Sunday, 5 or 6 gentlemen gathered at the dam to fish, talk outside, and share life stories. It was my weekly therapy. The story gained proportions that I never imagined. I received invitations to give lectures at events on the rights of the elderly. I participated in a documentary about financial blows against senior people. A publisher came to me to write a book telling my experience. So Jose, said the publisher, your story can help thousands of families identify signs of danger. Would you to write about everything you lived? I went. He spent a year writing, with the help of a journalist, every detail of my experience. The book, Son of the Heart, The Betrayal That Became a Lesson, was released the following year and became a national bestseller. At the autograph session in Sao Paulo, I met dozens of people who lived similar situations. Parents betrayed by children, grandparents stolen by grandchildren, elderly deceived by family members. Each story reminded me that I was not alone. You, Joseph, said a 70 lady. After reading her book, I had the courage to denounce my daughter who had been stealing me 3 years ago. She is trapped now, and I recovered my house. You're Joseph, said a gentleman of my age. Your example helped me understand that true family is not blood, it is love. Cut relationships with my children who only sought me for money, and now I have peace. Every story of these confirmed me that everything I went through had a greater purpose. Today, 3 years after all that happened, I wake up every morning thanking you to be alive. I make my coffee, read the newspaper, take care of my backyard. Miguel visits me every weekend, and we are finishing the house in the tree we built together. Anna became practically a daughter for me. Your John remains the brother I never had. With the book money, I created an NGO called True Family that offers legal and psychological support for the elderly victims of family violence. We have already helped more than 200 families in situations similar to mine. You, Joseph, said Donna Rita, one of the NGO beneficiaries, you have turned the worst thing that happened in your life into the best thing in many people's lives. Sometimes I find people on the street who recognize me from television or newspapers. Is the Lord that gentleman in the history of the son who wanted to kill the father? They ask. Yes, I answer shamelessly. Wow, what a terrible story. How did you get overcome? It is a difficult question to answer. How does a person overcome his son's betrayal? How does one continue believing in love and family after discovering that those who should protect him wanted to destroy him? The answer, I discovered, is in the little things. in Miguel's innocent laugh when we manage to fit a piece of the house on the tree, in the sincere hug of your John when we mark our Sunday fishing, in the good morning of Dona Maria da Padaria when I buy bread, in Anna's smile when she calls me father without realizing it. True love does not necessarily come from those who divide our blood. It comes from those who choose to be by our side in difficult times, from those who respect us for what we are, of those who value our sacrifices. Samuel chose the money, chose greed, chose the betrayal, but other people in my life have chosen love, loyalty, gratitude. I am today 61 years. My retirement is modest, but with the income of the book and the lectures, I have a comfortable life. My house is simple, but it's mine. My family is small, but it is true. When I lie in bed every night, I look at my Lucia's picture on the bedside table. My love, I whisper to her. I promised that I would take good care of our boy. I think I fulfilled my promise. It was not our fault that he chose the wrong way. We did everything we could do. And look, now I have a new family that chose me for love, not for obligation. And I sleep in peace knowing that I am alive, free, and surrounded by the right people. The biggest lesson I learned from all this is that family is not born with you. Family is the one who chooses to stay with you. Family is the one who protects you when you are vulnerable, who gets you up when you fall, who celebrates your victories and cries with your defeats. Miguel is my family. Anna is my family. Your John is my family. Dona Maria de Bakery is my family. Third Age Fishermen are my family. The people who work with me at the NGO are my family. Samuel can carry my last name and my blood, but he is no longer my family. Family doesn't try to kill you for money. Family does not celebrate your death even before it happens. Today I know that my life is worth much more than any heir inheritance or life insurance. It is worth the smiles that I can get from Miguel, the stories I can tell, the people I can help with my experience, the families I can save through my NGO. Last month I received Samuel's last letter. He was being transferred to a prison in another state and wanted to say goodbye. Father, this is probably the last time I will write. I just want to say that I travel, knowing that the Lord is fine, that there is a family that truly loves you, and that is helping other people. Somehow it gives me peace. Maybe my greatest contribution to the world was to show you who really deserves your love. This time I didn't answer. Some farewells are definitive, and if you who are listening to this story have children, grandchildren, people they love, value every moment with them, but do not blind to the point of not seeing signs of danger. Love cannot be naive. Trust, but note. Love, but protect yourself. And always remember, your life has value by itself, not what you can leave for others. Value who really values you. Invest who invests in you. And never allow someone, even if it's your own blood, make you feel that you are worth less than you deserve. My name is Jose Carlos da Silva. I survived the betrayal of my own son. I rebuilt my life at 58. I turned my pain into purpose. And I can say proudly, it was worth fighting for life. Because in the end, the greatest revenge against those who cheated on you is to be happy despite them. And I am happy, very happy.